Welcome, 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 one and all, to the Money Talk, yet another Monday afternoon. We want to thank you for taking the time off to join with us this afternoon. Well, as most persons, if you're not a first-time listener, you would know that the Money Talk, that's where we discuss finance from a biblical perspective. And it's your host, God St. Bernard, along with my co-host, DJ Sabi.
Yes.
Mr. Savazan in the house. Yeah, and we ask, as usual, for you to take part, listening audience, to the discussion we're going to have today. Send in your questions, your comments on our social media platform, Facebook, YouTube, or you can send in on our WhatsApp platform on 403-1031. All right, so again, welcome. It's episode 9 of the Money Talk. So, see, we're getting up there. A lot of information has been discussed, Sabi.
Yeah. I spoke to someone last week and, they said they really enjoy the program and so on, by way of feedback. They stated that the information that we share is very helpful. So, they encourage us to continue doing the good work, Yeah. So, it's good to get feedback. It helps you to know whether you're wasting time or if you're actually, doing something good.
Definitely. And that's why we ask persons to send in, because it's a learning experience for us all.
Yeah.
We don't have all the answers. We don't know all the information, all the details. So persons can send that in for all of us to learn and be edified.
That's right.
Yeah. Sabi, I find you're looking kind of...
Tired?
You're hungry over there?
Nah, I just eat. That's the thing. When you just eat the food and digest and you ain't getting the energy yet. You know? So in about half an hour time, I promise you by then, so something good will start happening.
All right. Even as you mentioned that, what comes to mind as we were speaking today, what is happening in Grenada right now, with the COVID and the community spread that we're experiencing.
Yeah, boy.
It's shaping up to be rather serious. We were told about it, but I don't think we really comprehended what was going to be taking place.
Yeah.
And you look and you see so much places closed at this time. A lot of persons being home.
Without a job. I'm not sure if their bosses will be paying them because it's not their fault at the same time. So, that could be rough.
So it's like, and this situation came to mind. Imagine you might be a single parent.
Yeah.
Sabi, and you're home, you might have to isolate or whatever because you might have come in contact.
Yeah, with someone.
So you don't have your job, you're isolated. How do you really deal with a situation like that?
Well, a bit of advice, once you have credit on your phone, I hope you know someone that is willing to show love or someone that is willing to, help where they can.
Yeah.
And what I am just encouraging persons to do is to be their brothers and their sisters' keeper, help where you can help. Don't be selfish. Find out and don't be scornful, boy. Sometimes people can say it's just you have the virus. Nah, I want nothing to do with you, and people will be like,
it's like leprosy as they spoke about in the Bible.
Yeah. So, even if it means that the person put the money in a plastic bag and send it out for you, and then you sanitize your hand in case you just want to be extra safe. And they can WhatsApp you a list of grocery, a list with the groceries that they may need. And you could help somebody. I encourage that you do that, and you could drop it on their step. They could easily come on their step in your absence and take it, So, whether you are a believer or not, because our program and our conversations is not only for persons who are in Christ, but we encourage everyone to show love. At the end of the day, it's important that we do so,
Yeah, we really, it's like at this point in time, we really need to look out for our neighbors, our brothers, and our sisters.
Yeah.
Because you're not sure what their situation might be right now. I mean to say it was tough prior to this.
Yep.
So I can only imagine for some persons. Right? So you might be one of those persons, you're able to go out to work, you're able to go to the supermarket, and so I really want to encourage you to think about others during this time.
True.
Really think about others. Call persons you know. You might have heard that they have the virus or whatever.
Just a word of encouragement. Let them know you're praying for them, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. You know?
No, it's not a time to be selfish.
Yeah, for real.
Definitely.
So that was just a little bit of encouragement for those guys out there. If you're negative, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with helping somebody who is, positive. So we have to do the best we can to fight and beat that virus together. So it's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
So God, what are you saying?
Well, no, even before, even our frontline workers, persons working in the hospital.
Crucial.
I really want to encourage us to pray for these people, boy.
Yep.
Because it's like their job is to deal with the situation, eh?
Right up in the nose, boy.
It's not like we going home, we're going home to our families or whatever the case might be. Try to stay away from people who are positive. They are dealing with those persons. So I really want to encourage us also to pray for
policemen, all the folks who, the nurses, the doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
even some of the what the government term what's the term for it again? Those people like me and you who have to work regardless.
The essential
workers. Because when we leave home and we go out, we are also, open. So everybody needs to pray for everybody, Very important, and show love to one another. Yep.
Yeah, Sabi. Yeah. So today we have a packed program ahead. All right. Today we will be joined by FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, and they're going to be enlightening us as to some of the functions and powers, and we're going to be touching, more doing a follow-up from last week when we would have touched on investment and more so risky investments and so, right? So I'm not sure if persons are even familiar with the unit, so we encourage you to tune in. We're going to have, I do believe, a very rewarding discussion this afternoon. But first, before we go into the discussion, as usual, Sabi, you can't forget to play my track there.
Yes. So, guys, it's a money talk.
It's a money talk.
It's a money talk. Let's listen to the money talk, boy.
Money talk. Money talk. So the love of money is the root of all evil. Money talk. Money talk. It's the money they love. Yo, cause them get caught up in the right thing. The wealth and the fame enticing. Come on, don't wanna do the right thing. The love of money blinded. Them a get caught up in the right thing. Wealth and fame enticing. Come on, don't wanna do the right thing. The love of money define them. Father God, keep us please from them religious schemes and them pretentious deeds with them infectious seeds. Keep us please from them religious schemes and them pretentious deeds with them infectious seeds. Money they love, money they crave. Love they have for money, make them turn into a slave. Money they want, that is the aim. Love they have for money, go drive them insane. Is money talk for this, money talk for that. If you say you got no money, them get heart attack. They want know how much you earn, cause they were part of that. Got to learn to discern, you can't take it back. For them get caught up in the right thing. The wealth and the fame enticing. Come on, don't wanna do the right thing. The love of money blinded. Them a get caught up in the right thing. Wealth and fame enticing. Come on, don't wanna do the right thing. The love of money define it. Father God keep.
All right. Welcome back. Again, you're joining us on the Money Talk, episode 9. On today, September the 6th. Sabi time flying, boy.
Boy, again, old boy, my month in I got.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just hope that COVID subsides so I could enjoy my birthday this time around. And just for all the listeners out there, I'm taking gifts, you know what I mean? It don't have to be money, although we talking the money. It could be, something nice. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So as I mentioned previous, today we will be joined by Officer Kieran Sinclair, and he's a detective constable attached to the FIU Financial Intelligence Unit, and he's a financial investigator. All right. Officer Sinclair has been a police officer for the past 10 years, and he has spent the past 3 years with the unit. So, Officer Sinclair, welcome. Welcome to the Money Talk, and we're happy to have you with us this afternoon.
Good evening. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. Good evening to you, the hosts, and to all viewers and listeners of Hope FM. I trust that everyone is having a good day and that everyone is doing their utmost in the fight against COVID-19.
Definitely. So as we jump into the discussion this afternoon, Officer Sinclair, um, we want you to give us a little breakdown as to the Financial Intelligence Unit. There might be a lot of persons out there that first time they're hearing about the unit. So give us a little history on the unit.
Okay, well, the Financial Intelligence Unit, or commonly known as the FIU, was established in 2001. So it's approximately 20 years since that time. According to the FIU Act 14 of 2012, right, the Act defines the Financial Intelligence Unit as a department of government sufficiently independent that has the responsibility to effectively deal with the multidimensional and complex problems of financial crime. It is the primary institution in Grenada that has the authority or the responsibility for conducting financial crime, right? So added to that, it's a relatively small unit, right? Made up primarily of police officers, and we also have a few civilian staff attached as well.
Okay, nice. So from that, what I'm getting is y'all are the key persons involved in investigation of these financial crimes. All right.
Yes,
Um,
yes, that's
lovely. So as it relates to the acts, I know you mentioned the FIU Act, but what are some of the other acts that is in place dealing with financial crime?
right. So we have what we call the Bible with respect to that particular field. Is what we call the Proceeds of Crime Act. Is normally goes by the shortened name, the POCA, right?
Okay.
It's primarily the main act that encapsulates these types of crime, as well as you would have the normal. You would also have the Terrorism Act that would speaks to terrorist activities, counter financing of terrorism. You would
Okay.
also have like the criminal code and so forth, which is normally used by the normal police officers, right? That would basically give us powers to deal with not just financial crimes, but other infractions, other criminal infractions of the law. So to name a few that, but the Financial Intelligence Unit Act is that primary act that speaks to the financial intelligence unit, right down to the structure, as well as the powers and some of that speaks to the general operation of the unit.
Okay. Nice. Now I took the liberty to do some reading up on the website, your website, just to somewhat get familiar. Um, and one thing was standing out, or two things, um, money laundering and also suspicious transaction reports. I saw those
Right.
things coming out a lot from the information you all have out there. So could you share some information on suspicious transaction reports and money laundering?
Yes, for sure. Well, money laundering is basically the process. There's no fixed definition for money laundering, must I say. Even if you read the Proceeds of Crime Act, in which the general public basically is entitled to as well. because you don't have to be a financial investigator also in order to get your hands on that legislation. It's there in the government printry, and persons could basically patronize, right? But so there are no fixed definition of money laundering. There are some key elements, however. So a common definition of money laundering may be money laundering is basically the process by which criminals conceal, disguise, transfer, uses the proceeds of crime or criminal property and just money. When persons hear the term money laundering, they normally limit it to just money. But I want to say it's not just money, but it's instead criminal property. So that would basically encapsulate any proceeds that were obtained from crime and given basically the appearance of legitimacy. So it was obtained as a result of mentioning but washing the monies, right? So you would basically be derived from crime. Persons now would watch that money because there are different stages in money laundering. There are three stages in money laundering. By way of a brief overview, there's the stage of placement, right, which is basically where these funds are introduced into the financial system. There's the next process of layering, which is basically in frank term the washing of the money. So you would go through different processes and so forth in order to make the money appear to be clean. And then you have integration, whereby after these processes, the money now would appear to be legitimate, and that it would be reintroduced into the financial system, right? So money laundering is not just limited to money. Money laundering, also money laundering, I must say, is what is deemed as a hybrid offense, right? Meaning that it can be tried in both the magistrate court as well as the high court. And money laundering, it's a very, very serious offense. In fact, the penal section for money laundering, right? So if someone was to be convicted for the offense of money laundering, right, on summary conviction, meaning in the magistrate court, right? So once they're found guilty of committing the offense of money laundering, the magistrate could fine them as much as $500,000, and that is basically this is basically pursuant to the Proceeds of Crime Act, right?
Okay.
So you could be fined $500,000 or 5 years imprisonment or both, and that's on summary conviction. On conviction of indictment, meaning in the high court, the judge could fine you basically an unlimited fine. So there's no specified fine. Is basically based on the judge's discretion, right? But so there's no fixed fine, and also you could be imprisoned, for 14 years, right? Or both fined as well as confined. So money laundering is trust me, it's a very, very, very serious offense. And of course, most persons may not really know what they may have to do in order to commit money laundering. So, which means, it makes persons vulnerable, because if basically you don't have that knowledge, then you are susceptible to committing money laundering. Of course, it don't have to be intentional, but the reality is you are susceptible.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So you, me not knowing that I'm involved in money laundering, it doesn't protect me.
Well, I should say off the bat, right? It is often said that ignorance of the law is no excuse. However, of course, to everything else, discretion should be applied, right? And I'm not saying that if you unfortunately happen to be a part of a money laundering scheme, right? And upon investigation, that you would not be charged or you cannot be charged. But the law also speaks to that's pursuant to section 35 1A of the Proceeds of Crime Act. 1B, sorry, the point I'm about to make, right? So money laundering, with the elements, there are different elements to prove money laundering. Of course, mere possession of criminal property, the use basically, which ties in with possession. You have the transferring of the funds, yeah, along with other, these guys, concealment and so forth. But section 35 1B of the Proceeds of Crime Act specifically speaks to knowing or suspecting, right, whether whole or in part, whether directly or indirectly, right, the proceeds of another person's criminal conduct. So which means that probably from the inception of the scheme, you may not have known. But of course, to everything else, there would be red flags, and you might be able to ask yourself, is this right? Somehow I'm not getting, a good feeling about that. You understand? Why would someone basically, why would someone, ask me to do that basically, when they could do it for themselves?
So in a case
So,
like
so as long as basically, pardon me?
in a case like that, someone being in that position, in a case like that, someone asking you to do something that you find there is a red flag in it. It's not making too much sense to you. What do you do? Should you go to the FIU
Well,
and
of
tell?
course,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, you could decline. Yes, you could decline. But the law, section 38 of that same act, speaks to mandatory reporting of like money laundering activities and so forth. So
Right.
it all boils down to the investigation. But in a nutshell, you can be liable to charge, because what I'm saying is that not having direct knowledge from the inception doesn't basically limit you from being charged. So I'm just saying that on mere suspicion, right, on knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
that actually would suffice and make you eligible to be charged. And I specifically quoted that section of law because it's direct. It's direct. You actually speak to knowing or suspecting, that proceeds were obtained. So the criminal conduct or the proceeds basically, you don't basically have to get that proceeds.
Right.
But in short, that Tom basically, based on his criminal activities, would have obtained these proceeds, and more so, would have actually aided in either transferring it or even just holding it, disguising it, trying to conceal it, and so forth for him. So, yes.
All right. So can you state some of the I would say organizations or so individuals who might be more exposed to those type of activities, like or is it anybody could be in that kind of vulnerable position?
Yes, well, the truth is everyone, and of course I'll explain why. Money laundering, we have what they call, well, in Grenada here, right? We operate on the threshold approach, right? In that there are a specific set of offenses, right? What we call scheduled offenses that once committed, they could basically be a predicate or primary offense leading to money laundering, right? So while there are what they call standalone money laundering, where there's the absence of a predicate or a primary offense, but the easiest way of proving money laundering is basically money laundering that is committed with a predicate offense. So as I expound, so Tom would have committed some fraud, right, to basically obtained, because basically a fraud is like a wrongful or criminal deception, usually resulting in some financial loss by the victims and financial gain by the perpetrator, right? So once he's involved in that fraudulent scheme, right, and let's say that scheme um worked, then whatever he obtained from that scheme, so be it money, right? Now that money, because the money was obtained from a crime, right, which is fraud, that in itself would constitute to the offense of money laundering as well, on the element of possession. Yeah, because it was obtained from a crime and you have it in your possession. Now, if you were to transfer that monies or so forth, so let's say you decide to probably go to MoneyGram or so and transfer that funds to someone in the United States or elsewhere. No, the element of transferring basically would be relevant in that case. And well, all of the other elements that I mentioned before. So if basically Tom gave you the monies, let's say that Tom basically is involved in illegal drug activities, and Tom come to you to ask you to, save up $10,000 for him or so, and you in turn take that money and whether you hide it below your bed or below your pillow or whatsoever, that basically is trying to conceal it, and that's sufficient. Yeah, and even if you're found with the monies, then again you would basically revert to possession. So money laundering, anyone basically could get trapped with money laundering because it's very, very easy to prove. One of the main things, not in all cases, as I gave the exception, because it's a hybrid offense which could stand on its own. So in not all instances you would need the presence of a predicate or primary offense, but it's very easy to prove because once you once you commit one of the offenses that falls within the schedule of offenses, then automatically you could be charged for money laundering. Anything basically you do with the criminal proceeds thereafter, whether you hold it, you transfer it, you hide it, or so forth. So you see, it's very, very easy. It's very easy to prove.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Lovely. Now, I would have asked earlier about a suspicious transaction report. How does that tie into the whole money laundering um, picture?
Right. So suspicious, what we call SARs. So we normally call them SARS, suspicious activity reports. Right. Mainly, you would have financial institutions as well as other like microfinancing businesses and so forth, or relevant businesses also. You would mainly find these set of entities filing suspicious activity report, and basically derived from suspicion. So once you go to a, let's say, just by way of a union also to deposit some monies, right? And which they obviously would have the policies, right? In accordance with the AML, anti-money laundering, and CFT, counter financing of terrorism policies, right? So they would have their policies more like SOPs, standard operating procedures internally. So you may be required to, let's say, do a source of fund declaration. And of course, one would think that if you are coming to the credit union to deposit some money, and a simple question is being asked, what's the source of the funds? One would think that if it's legitimately obtained, you would think that I might be able to say, well, I did some construction work for James and so forth. And if there's a need, to ascertain that, then easy verification might be able to take place. But of course, so you come in basically with, let's say, $10,000. I must I say that there's no fixed suspicion. Of course, it would be based on the discretion of the person at the time that they're dealing with, right? But I'm just basically giving a clearer picture. So you go to the credit union with $10,000. Let's say 5,000 of which is $1, $1 coins, and the other five is made up of, let's say, all of the other denominations. $5, a whole set, maybe $2,005 or so forth, right? So that by itself is not really um, suspicious, right? Because of course, in order to have a suspicion, you would have to have a standard and measure it up now to that standard. Yeah, if you don't have a standard, then you can't say that anything basically is suspicious, right? And right. So in line of that, the teller or service rep ask you what's the source of the funds, and you know reluctant to say, well, why I have to follow a source of funds? Why I have to do this? Why I have to do that? You know, as opposed to just simply adhering. Sometimes the possibility exists that your refusal to answer the question don't necessarily mean that the money was illegitimately obtained, right? However, but the normal thinking persons, you would basically start raising red flags to you.
Yeah.
And once that is done, the institution now has the responsibility, and I say they must, because they have an obligation according to the law to report the matter to the FIU, right? And they can do one of two things. Despite your reluctance and the fact that they're uncomfortable, then they can either decline your deposit, right? And even after you leave, they can file a suspicious activity report on you, or they can go ahead and they could accept the deposit or the transaction, and they could still file a suspicious report on you. So in a nutshell, that is what suspicious activity reports or suspicious reporting is basically about, in a nutshell.
Nice, 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 nice. Now, last week on episode 8 of the program, we started to look at investments, and we looked at the different types of investments. So we had, low risk investments, your term deposits. We had medium risk investments. What we would have looked like setting up a business, shares, treasury bills, these kind of things, and then we looked at the high risk investments. So, for example, your schemes, your online, when people asking you to send monies and they're going to send back a couple $1 million for you. As it relates to high risk investment, what are some of the things that you're seeing people falling victim to from the FIU standpoint?
All right. So just allow me to just give an insight as to what a scam could be defined as, and so forth. Must I've also established that to all investments or to everything, there must be a certain level of risk associated with it, because of course a risk is basically a threat and a vulnerability, right? So you have basically that threat, let's say, and I'll break it down in order for it to be easily understood, right? So you're in a house and there's a ferocious dog on the outside, and you have, let's say, instead of having a wooden door, you have probably just a curtain, right? So the threat would be the ferocious dog on the outside. And the vulnerability would be the fact that you're in a house with no doors, so the dog could get at you. And I use that example because that's an ideal example of what a risk is, right? So the threat plus the vulnerability would amount to the risk, right? Now, a scam, by way of a very simple definition, is a dishonest scheme, right? Is actually a type of fraud, mainly through electronic means. And so, of course, resulting in the victim would normally result in some financial loss. and the perpetrator would basically financial gain, right? Now, scam is basically a broad topic. It's very, very important though, because well, prior to the drop in terms of the business activities, the day-to-day activities, due to the COVID-19, that is right. But what we saw prior to that at the Financial Intelligence Unit is that it is quite prevalent, and unfortunately, you have persons falling victim to that on a frequent basis. It's safe to say that every week we would have reports of persons falling victim to fraudulent activities or scam in particular, right? To speak a bit on the typologies and trends, right? So with respect to typologies, there are different
Yeah.
types
We,
of scam. But as I alluded to, hello.
Yeah, we notice your internet a
the
little.
internet, the
Yeah, your
internet seems
internet
to be dropping a
dropping
bit.
a little bit. Yeah, so if you go back to the type of
Okay,
scam and pick up from there.
right. Yes, I actually, when I realized that, I actually try to get your cooperation to confirm whether or not it was an internet issue. Right. So touching on typologies, I'll just speak to three of the more prevalent one, right? So on top of that list is really employment scams, whereby you would have um persons who's always on social media, Facebook, other social media platforms and mediums. And you might be there scrolling on your own business. You might see, a job vacancy, um, being advertised, um, being promiscuous, or sometimes being vulnerable, because the fact is some persons are just home and they basically are unemployed. So they would click that um that link, or so forth. You would populate that those required fields, right? Telling you, well, it's a opportunity. So put in your information and so forth. And after you put that in, and you select, sometimes instantly, you actually get confirmation then and they're telling you that you get the job. And I would back that up with a local example that we had. So there was this young lady, after investigation, of course, there was this young lady that in speaking with her after, she indicated basically what I just said. She was on the internet and she clicked, she populated the field. They're saying that you can be employed right at your home. So she basically explored that avenue, and she filled out the required information, and then and there she got confirmation saying that you were successful, you got the job, and so forth. Now the nature of that job was relayed to her that um she would be cashing US based checks for persons who are unable to basically go and conduct the transactions themselves, right? So what would happen, and it's real, because I can tell you that these documents, so forth, appearing to be legitimate, so like checks and other documents, would actually make its way down to Grenada from whichever country, right, it came from. We actually have that that situation whereby in that particular matter, the documents, or the check was, it made its way down through FedEx. Now the young lady actually went to pick up that check. Apparently, she must have gotten through with some prior, right, to this one in particular. And then she would take that check and go to the financial institution, deposit it into her account, right? In some cases, the money may, especially if you have money into your account already, then you would get swift instructions now to take out $5,000 or so, and go to Western Union, and they would give you names and so forth who to send it to in different jurisdictions, including what Africa and some of the other institutions. Now it appears to be authentic simply because sometime now the check appears to be cleared and so forth. So you now use out of your monies to send, and then it basically now you're getting the assurance that they wouldn't ask you to send all, so that you can actually see that you are getting paid. So they may tell you, well, keep 2,500 for yourself and send the rest to us. But by the time now the check clear, obviously the bank now would take back. That is what actually happened. But the last time around, the young lady now didn't get the chance to send the money. So during the clearance period, she got information from the bank that the check is basically a fraudulent check. So that is a perfect example of what we call employment scam. The opportunity would present itself as a job opportunity. And of course, if you're vulnerable and more so susceptible, then you fall victim to that. One of the most prevalent one as well is that of a relationship or a romantic scam. Likewise, it's basically over the internet. Over Facebook, you may just get a message. You might be probably searching for love or so forth. And you get this information. Of course, anyone could upload any picture. So sometimes, in some cases, when you look at the picture is actually flawless. It's like it's too good to be true. Yet still, of course, it could be anyone on the other end of a conversation, right? Especially if it's a text conversation and not basically a vocal one. And to back that up, we have a direct example again at the office. This gentleman came in with, and I wouldn't exaggerate, he came in with approximately 21 receipts, transaction receipts. 19 of which was Western Union receipts. I think one was MoneyGram, and then one was like a wire transfer document. And he basically indicated in a nutshell that he met this young lady on over the internet. They started speaking, and over time they fell in love, and she basically promised to take him up, so she asked him to send some monies and so forth in order to organize, make arrangements, visa and other stuff. And and he actually, but the funny thing about, well, not funny, but the intriguing thing about that is, of the 21 receipts, it could have about 15 different names and probably about the same amount of different jurisdiction, right? So you may wonder, you're speaking to Tom Jones, but yet still they're asking you to send monies to Jane, and then sometime in England, the United States, Africa, Europe. But that wasn't the detrimental part about the whole scheme. So he fell victim to that over time. When you basically added the receipts, they total like about 30-something thousand, well, EC dollars. But the victim actually went on to tell me that he had a plot of land that he actually sold in order to get monies to send for the individual. And the reality, and it's a key message for the public. Sometimes, as harsh as it may sound, sometimes we have to make good sense, a common sense and good judgment prevail, and and make wise decisions. Then and there, to everything there would be red flag. So one, we're speaking, and you're claiming to be in love, possibly getting married, and you never seen that person. Every time you attempt, as he indicated, every time you attempt to video call, something always wrong with the camera, and so forth, right? But I say all this to say, what is the likelihood in the lottery when you never played or you never signed up to play the lottery?
Yeah.
So we need to yeah, we need to do some, self introspection, in the heat of the moment, and ask ourselves these questions. And once the answer is no, I haven't signed up for anything that warrants some form of monetary reward, then then and there you might be able to make a fair assessment and make a wise decision. So I say that it's real. Would you imagine that gentleman went to the extent of basically selling property in order to get monies, to send, and ultimately, it basically was lost. The other one, basically, which is self-explanatory, is transactional schemes. Basically, is basically the same thing. You get in message to send monies, and you do it, and basically you fall victim after that. Now, I must say, and I really want to admonish persons out there to, stop taking your hard-earned money, basically, and just letting it, go a begging like that so easily, right? The reality about it is persons would have the perception that, the financial intelligence unit will be able to get back their monies, but um, we can do as much as we can do, but there are constraints in doing so, and trust me, there are some real barriers, and I can speak to some of the barriers. Um, some of the jurisdictions, must I say, to add to the list of red flags, are, without pointing a particular finger at any particular country or jurisdiction, but there are some of the jurisdictions that are renowned for scam like activities. So, you basically start communicating with persons in Africa and some of the other places, and that in itself should be a red flag. Now, basically, just imagine, probably the person receiving the monies is in Africa. Now, there are certain jurisdictions that we don't have that memorandum of understanding with, right? Yes, there are instances whereby we would prepare what we call an MLAT request. Is basically mutual legal assistance of treaties, and we would send. But this in itself is a very time consuming process, because by the time the request is finalized and sent off, now persons in other jurisdiction, you would think that they would have their priority. So of course, what may seem like a substantial amount of money for us, the average man, it may just be a pocket change. You come in, the normal person come in to report that's 1,000 US, they lost that. But looking at that and sending a request to the United States, which basically in every country, a dollar is a dollar, right? And they, of course, would have their priorities, and they may be overwhelmed as well work wise. So sometimes they don't bother with it at all. And I wouldn't call the institution, but the jurisdiction. But what I can say is that a request was prepared for assistance, yeah, some years ago, to a particular jurisdiction. And up until this time, no feedback, no assistance. Now, how do you maneuver from that? So the reality about it is, if it's some of the, let's say, it's some of the jurisdiction whereby we would have that, hands-on communication. It's something, let's say, to our neighboring counterparts in St. Vincent or so forth, which is, right there. We might be able to act upon it. But the likelihood is that you would not get back your monies, and not because the FIU is not doing anything, but the reality is that because of all of the constraints, it's very, very difficult to get back your monies.
What about
So I really go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead, sir.
what about one of the favorite one with I think what happens locally with folks who deals with used vehicle importation. Some of them are maybe registered car dealers and some of them are not, but they would take money from persons and say they would get their vehicle and so on, and nothing happens. And also, what about persons who take the risk in trying to purchase a car from someone who contact them on WhatsApp, because these days you have so much person just WhatsApping you and calling you from Japan, but they don't sound like Japanese, and someone may hear and feel, well, this is that's a good deal, and fall for it. How can you help somebody, especially in that especially the Japanese concern?
Right. So I'll revert to the same point I just made. In most cases, based on the amount, of course, based on the amount, because if the reality is you just lose a couple thousand of, let's say, EC dollars, and I'm taking into consideration what I just mentioned, all of the tedious process and the time consuming process, then it really wouldn't really make sense. It's like the praise costing more than the funeral. Yeah. So, yeah, but what would happen is what I would admonish, right? Of course, everyone would try to save a dollar, so they may try to, and you were right, because in fact I meant to touch on that, but I guess we're on the same page. So you may try to just communicate with that person, send money and so forth, and ultimately you end up in some scheme, as opposed to going to a reputable person or entity, right? And you see, it's always better. For one, these are persons who constantly conduct transactions to these persons, right? They constantly do so. And the likelihood is that not that you as a victim should, in case, God forbid, but should in case, let's say the person that you go to don't basically fulfill their end of the bargain to bring in your vehicle. Now you have a local starting point whereby you can come to the police with all of your receipts and so forth, and basically show that you basically entrusted Tom Jones with a particular amount of funds for that particular purpose, and he went contrary to that. And I can tell you of the bat, this amounts to a criminal offense, fraudulent breach of trust, and so they can be charged. But if the fact about it is, you might be able to get some sort of satisfaction if you go to that reputable source, as opposed to you just going on the internet because you want to cut cost or so, and you end up falling victim. And the likelihood, as I say, is not that anything cannot be done, but remember, we can only do as much as we can do. And basically, if I were to revert to the same statement, we would prepare requests, MLAT requests, and so forth, which basically would take months. And would you imagine if you just think about that? You go into Western Union and send up, let's say, 10,000. I'm just giving a figure, $10,000. How can you rest assured, or what make you believe that the Tom Jones that you send it to, who gave his address in the United States and collected the monies in the United States, what make you believe that Tom Jones would collect the monies and wait 3 months or longer for the police to come and get them there, even if you ask for the assistance? Yeah. So the reality about it is, it's very, very difficult. I don't want to give anyone the impression that the FIU basically will basically recover your money. There are instances, however, that we were fortunate to recover monies, and it basically revert to the point I make based on the jurisdiction, because what you had happening is that we had a local scheme whereby they would sort of like employment, but it was local. They would communicate with that individual and get them now so they make the scammer would communicate with more than one individual locally, right? So they may tell Tom Jones they're working. So what I want you to do is go to, let's say, a particular financial institution and deposit $5,000, and they would give them a name, which may be a local account holder, right? So now Tom basically would basically conduct that transaction, and they are communicating now with the account holder now to tell them, give them other directives to take out $3,000 or $4,500 of the monies that was just sent in your account, keep $5,000 for yourself as payment, and then send the others. And you see, that in itself would make it appear to be authentic, because you're working and you're getting paid. So what happened is that we got a report from a particular financial institution. Of course, it was easier to maneuver because it was local. So we
Yeah.
actually get an account holder with a local address, and we were able to expeditiously act upon it. And of course, when we basically got the account holder, and the person in explaining what went on is in essence what I just explained to you. So the fact is, they had no real knowledge from inception. But I still want to add that, notwithstanding you may not be a part of the plan, right, from the inception, but once you start getting yourself involved in these schemes, and remember what I said earlier, knowledge, mere knowledge and suspicion, that in itself could make you eligible for charge. Now we have to try to stay away from such, ill-gotten practices, because it subjects yourself from being charged. And then basically I already expounded, the severity in sentencing with respect to the offense of money laundering or money laundering related activities. So it's real. I want to say that it's real. It's unfortunate, of course, but it's really, if it's something local, then it's easier. Appearing to be a car dealer or so forth, and whereby it actually led to a criminal charge. Or in some cases, once the investigation commences, then the person might, probably it's a case of mismanagement. So sometimes they use your money to do somebody else's and so forth.
Yeah.
But once they realize now the police is on the matter, no, sometimes now they just agree to, okay, I'll give you back the monies that you pay. And not that an offense wasn't committed, but as I said, you still have to exercise discretion in everything you do. And of course, ultimately the satisfaction of the customer or the victim is of paramount importance. And in most cases, they get back their funds. Yeah, they may not get the vehicle, but they get back the funds and they're okay with it. Officer, I no longer wish to pursue the matter, because it would just be a waste of time. They would now go in court and they would still say to the magistrate that, yes, that was the case. The police reached out to him and he basically gave me back my monies, and I'm okay with that. I'll just use another avenue.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sounds
Very
good.
informative, man.
A lot of information here today, guys. A lot of information, and I believe even as we go forward with the program, a lot of it would be very useful to persons as they seek to take care in how they spend their monies, how they use their hard-earned monies.
Yeah.
One of the episode 2, Officer Sinclair dealt with being good stewards. How you manage what the Lord has blessed you with.
Yeah.
So I believe this further cements that point. How you use your monies is very, very important. Again, listeners, we want to invite you to send in your comments, questions. We know it's coming up to the 7 o'clock hour. And you know what 7 o'clock is tonight, from tonight.
Yeah.
Right? But we still asking, if you have any questions while we have Officer Sinclair here. We won't be on for much longer. You can quickly send them in. Sabi, any questions from you?
Well, at this point, God, not really. I listened very closely. My mouth was shut. Something I don't do much, but I realized I was actually taking in quite a bit today.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And,
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
It leaves me thinking a bit, and me and Officer Sinclair need to have a conversation after, because I think I have an idea I can share with him if he considers it God. Yeah, we can't share it online because, but we have an idea that I can share with him, something that I believe the Lord has showed me, and when we talk about it, you would understand where I'm coming from, and that will help him to further, if implemented, will help him to further help people, catch some culprits before they get out of hand.
Okay, nice.
Because I've met people, as I'm involved in the insurance field, and also I once was a car dealer, And I've met persons, boy, and they cry for their money when they go to the bank, like they're going to Gata and get some money to buy a vehicle and give somebody who they trust, and in the end, 5 6 months going on the road and they can't get their vehicle. You understand? Or they see something on Alibaba, you understand? And they come to get a loan in the bank by God, and then they try to buy this thing. Like one time a man said to me, he tried to buy an engine from Alibaba, spend about 2,300 US dollars, and to this date he never get back. He never get anything for his money, and that money just gone, and he doesn't even know, so it tells us we should have some way and mechanisms to ensure that we use our monies right, especially when we dealing with the online transaction. So that's very important, man. So.
All right. Officer Sinclair, we would give you another 5 minutes to wrap up. From you speaking, you have a lot of experience. This is your field.
Yeah.
Right? So we give you another 5 minutes. If we get any questions during that time, we would break to seek to answer those questions. But we just give you another 5 minutes to wrap up this afternoon.
Right. So two things to refer to what Mr. Sabazan was just saying. I want to add to that in terms of the car dealer also, actually failing to do what they were entrusted to do with the funds. Now, the bad thing about that is I mentioned that the car dealer may be eligible to be charged, and in some cases charged. Now, the unfortunate thing about that still is that the perpetrator may be charged, but you still have no assurance as a victim that you would get back your funds, because when the matter goes to court, unfortunately, it would be basically against an offense committed against the law of the state, right? So in most cases, the person is still found guilty of the offense to which they have been charged, and you cannot rest assured that the magistrate also would reward compensation to you, right? In some cases, you may have to revert to civil action, and civil action more or less sometimes would take years in the court, and sometimes ultimately it still doesn't end up in your favor, right? So I just wanted to add that while basically you just mentioned it. Another key thing I see the need to address while I basically remember is that persons conducting businesses, right? Please, I admonish you, right? I urge you, I implore on you to please be careful, right? There's nothing wrong in you conducting, let's say, transactions. You probably would have conducted some transactions in a particular line of work over a period of time using a particular email address and so forth. Now, there's nothing wrong, especially when you have to do that wire transfers of that, exorbitant amount of cash. No, there's nothing wrong in reaching out to that person, be it by a simple phone call or so, I noticed that the email address that we normally use, I noticed that, it basically, I saw a new one, just seeking confirmation. Is that your new email address? Yes, go ahead, and so forth. You get the confirmation. Now, we have instances in the past, and I can, as I say again, I can basically share that with you because, I actually had the experience while being in a unit. It was a business transaction. So it was actually in the region of about 165,000 US dollars. And that particular person was conducting transaction with the other person over time. Now they got an email basically which basically the scammer will do, redirecting you to send the funds to a particular, sometimes, and you have to look closely there, sometimes it's just an icon that is basically different. So sometimes it just look like that and it all appears to be the same. But in that particular instance, there was a redirection of sending the monies to the same email address. Well, should I say it appears to be the same email address, but you had that addition now with Mexico or something, which basically wasn't the case for the other transaction. Now, The gentleman tried to reach out to the person, but he didn't get the confirmation. Yet still, he went ahead and sent the monies. And by that time, basically, there's a certain amount of time that if it just happened, the financial institution may be able to recall.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And then, as I said, the processes basically would continue. So you would basically do based on the amount of money or so forth. You actually go through the lengthy process of doing the request and so forth. And ultimately, you would not be that successful because the person now receiving that monies in the US, as I said earlier, what makes you believe they would wait for you in the US wait for the US police to come and intercept them, right? So I just thought it prudent as well and very important to share this.
So someone asked a question if Alibaba is a safe site. I don't know if you can answer that one, but I will give my 2 cents there also. Let me hear you.
Now, the truth is that I would tread on the air of caution, and I would not give a definite answer if I'm not certain, right?
Okay.
So the truth is, I'm not too acquainted with that site, but there are certain things that you can do hands-on, all right?
Right.
What we call open source intelligence, OSINT. By just merely checking out things over the internet. Of course, you try to stay away from some of the unsecured sites, and you will know because there's normally like a closed or locked padlock icon, right?
Okay.
There are certain sites basically that would, there are certain sites that could test the authenticity of a particular business or so forth, right?
Okay.
And you utilize those medium. If you're not certain, of course you can try, Google, and for instance, you might see all different types of numbers messaging you, indicating that it's from the US and so forth. And sometimes you just try Google and it give you a totally different jurisdiction. Now all of these are red flags. Sorry. So treading on the air of caution. I can't say whether or not it's a safe site.
Okay. But are there any thing you can use in particular, like looking at a website, for example, and by observing certain information that's on it, you would say, okay, I noticed there's a year when the website was formed. What can someone look for? So, in case they're looking for something, they search for the item on Google and it leads them to a web page. So, what can you look for? Do you have any ideas you can share there to further help someone, avoid making those foolish mistakes? Or I won't say foolish, but sometimes it's just innocently they just figure they can get what they're looking for, and that's where they end up.
Yeah. Well, I can definitively say, but of course, to everything, or more so to every fraudulent scheme, there will be indicators, right, or red flag. So what you may be able to do, you may still be able to look to see if the site is a secured site.
Okay.
Of course, what you can do, so instantly you may not be able to make a determination, but what you should do, or what you should consider doing, is actually doing your own investigation. There are persons who are not sure, would still call the financial intelligence unit, and sometimes we would take the information, we would actually conduct, further checks, and then we would get back to them, even if it means, and in most cases, once we're not sure, we would tell you basically that we're not certain, but
Okay.
this is what we observe. But one of the safest thing to do is go around and inquire. Ask persons whether or not they would have, right, whether or not they would have, fortunately got their stuff from that particular site, among other things. So you don't just rely on your own understanding, but basically you make the inquiries and so forth. But it's difficult. I could tell you that in this the emergence of technology and so forth, it's very, very difficult, because remember, in our field of work, the scammers are working twice as harder in order to deceive persons. Yeah, and some of them are really, really good. So
They're good.
yeah, that's just my advice.
All right, all right, all right. There you have it, guys. Money Talk, episode 10. And in our company this afternoon, we had Officer Sinclair attached to the Financial Intelligence Unit. Officer Sinclair, we want to thank you so very much
Yeah, man.
for taking the time off from your busy schedule to spend with us and to share your knowledge and experience. And I do believe that persons would have learned a whole lot. And I want to let you know that based on the topic that comes up in the future, we just might come knocking on your doors again.
Yeah, yeah.
So we hope you would extend similar courtesies to us here at Hope 103.1 FM. All right. So thank you very much, Sabi.
Yeah, well, you said it all, God. But this has been our episode of the Money Talk. And guys, remember this Wednesday you can check us out again on Hope 103.1 FM. I'll be here. I have a guest from Trinidad. Yeah, we're talking about life struggles. You know, some people have some life struggles. So when we going into that a little bit. So Officer Sinclair, thank you again. And I'll be calling you to have that discussion for real. It's something I believe when we talk about it, you see where I'm coming from. And you might glean something and make it better. For real. It's a serious idea out of my head. So,
Okay.
yeah, man. So, thanks again. And
Yeah, it's
let me stop here. Let me stop here and know I say thanks just the same. All right.
It's a pleasure on behalf of the head. It's a
All
pleasure.
right. All
Take
right,
care,
good. So if
everyone.
you guys have any information y'all are disseminating that can help the public to make better decisions and so on, you can also reach out and send it to us so we could share it out. It's not a problem. Hmm. All right, man. So have a good evening and God bless you, man.
Thank you, and you do likewise. Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Good. Yes, Gat. So you have anything else you want to say, boy?
Now, right now, my head overloaded.
Yeah.
Man. That was a lot of information
Yeah,
there.
quite a bit right there.
And I do believe that persons should be in a much better position. When we're looking at it started off with investment,
Yeah.
but it is more than just you trying to multiply your funds.
Yeah, you have to be
Right?
smart. You have to be wise.
Smart. You
Yeah,
have to be
make
smart.
good decision.
Right?
Because the thing about it, and that's when we spoke about greed. Greed is one of the things that blinds people from seeing what is fake from what is real.
From what
And
is
a
real.
greedy person will only see what is flashed before them. For example, one of our listeners or viewers sent a message, and I've seen this type of messages before also. You get a WhatsApp message from Samsung stating that you owe an X amount of money. And when I got it, I engaged the scammer. Yeah. So I asked him the question. I said, so what do I have to do to get the money? And he was like, send me your name and your address, your bank account number, and I will fill out a form and send it back. I said, that is all you need to give me all that amount of money. And my man just gone silent. One of the viewers also was asking me to give my 2 cents on whether or not Alibaba is a safe site. Well, I've known persons who purchased from them and got their stuff, and I also have heard about persons who had issues because I believe what it is like a hosting site now. So I could have an account in Alibaba. God could also do the same thing. Where there is I would say middle man, because there are sites like these that like for example Trade Car View. There are many other minor car sellers that will post their cars there. Trade Car View does all the marketing, and they get a commission if you buy through them. But some people will try to derail you from buying through them and offer you a discount. So they use Trade Car View and to get to you, and then don't allow the people to get their commission. But I think it's important to find some way to, just do your research. Yeah, do your research, and if you're unsure about something, boy, don't put your money in it.
Don't put your
You
money.
understand about your money? It's just that straight. If you
Yeah.
have uncertainty, unless you're willing to take the risk, you do your research, you feel comfortable, and you can live with the consequences of losing what it is, and it won't hurt you. But that's kind of weird. But some people are kind of like that. They don't mind. It's only money, they say. So be wise though. It's not only money. You have to work hard for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So who we want to say good evening to, God, before we wrap up?
Well, on the live we have Chosen Fraser, we have Leno Sabazan. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Your
We
brother
have
Denny.
Tamara. Tamara, thank you for spending the time with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tamara from Trinidad, my friend. Right. Yeah. Good evening to you, Tamara. Thanks for that. And Sonora Salazar. My good friend Sylvina was on also.
Nice.
Me say good evening to Miss Louison, Dr. Louison. I see she texts in here. She said this one was serious, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. So there's a lot of scammers out there. Well, protect yourself from the scammers. We don't want you to get scammed. You understand?
True,
and then
true.
you're crying, you lose all your money. Yeah. So we'll take our departure right here. It's been a pleasure being with you guys. And it was the 9th episode of the Money Talk.
Of the Money Talk.
Yeah. So next week, God's willing, on the Money Talk, we'll be talking about planning for success. We have a guest from Canada. He's a Grenadian, but he lives in Canada, works in Canada for quite a while. So he will be joining us and we'll be talking about planning for success. So we pray that you guys will join in. If you have a plan, something you want to accomplish, some of the steps you could probably implement at the initial stages to accomplish your plans. All right. And some of the things you could probably expect when planning, because sometimes got your plan things and you ain't go exactly how you should it be really or should it be, you understand?
Yeah, how to deal with that.
Yeah. So yeah, my friend saying there, trying to understand. Okay.
Kenny manager.
I don't know what that is, but nonetheless. Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
guys, blessed night, be safe. Remember,
protect
as we
yourself.
stated besides that, please, if you can help somebody who
Yep.
needs your help, someone in your community, somebody who is less fortunate, somebody who is under lockdown, can't go to buy food, they can't get what they need to make it. If you can help somebody like that without putting yourself in danger, of course, do so. Understand? And not just for God's blessing, but because it's your moral duty to do so. You understand? Yep. So let me see. Okay.
All right, guys.
Instruments of praise. That's what you're saying, Kenny. Okay. Yeah, man. I know who's there, man. I know Kenny Fraser, man. Right. Pick up yourself, bro. God bless you and thank you for tuning in. You could also share our stream if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube pages as yet. You can do so. Just go on to hoopfmgrenada.com. That's our email. That's our web page. I got.
Yeah.
But our YouTube page is Hope FM Grenada. So you can go on there and subscribe. So whenever we come live, you will be able to catch in. All right. Yeah. So God bless you. Got anything you wanted to say again? But see what I told you earlier on? What did I tell you? Got the food digest. And then I just start getting the energy.
You already know.
Yeah, that's how happening. Guys, later. All right.
Good night, everyone.